What if a journey began with hope, slowly turned into a road one could not leave? On the 2nd of Muharram, history records a moment that looks simple on the surface, but carries the weight of an entire tragedy inside it. This is the day the caravan of Imam Husayn ibn Ali radiyallahu anhu was forced to stop in Karbala. A stop that was not planned, but was enforced. And from that moment, the direction of history changed forever. The journey began when Imam Husayn left Mecca heading toward Kufa after receiving letters of invitation from its people. Early Sunni historical sources like Tarikh al-Tabari mention that thousands of letters were sent to him calling him to guide them after political unrest in the Umayyad state. But what began as a hopeful journey slowly turned into uncertainty. When he reached the region near Karbala, he was met by the forces of Hurr ibn Yazid. These were not initially sent for battle, but for control. They were ordered to ensure he does not proceed freely toward Kufa. And so, on the 2nd of Muharram, the caravan of Imam Husayn stopped. Not in a city, not in a shelter, but in an empty desert land. A land that had no comfort, only silence. The command was clear. Imam Husayn radiyallahu an was not to proceed further without permission. The army of Hurr stood in formation, not attacking, not retreating, but blocking. The desert road became a boundary. There was no open war yet, but freedom of movement had already ended. According to Al-Bidaya wal-Nihaya, Imam Husayn radiyallahu an did not react with anger or panic. Instead, he observed the situation with patience and awareness. He understood something deeper was unfolding, not just politics, but destiny. At this moment, Karbala was not known as Karbala of tragedy. It was just land. But decisions made in such moments often carry consequences far beyond what the eye can see. Imam Husayn radiyallahu an asked about the land. He was told its name, Karbala, a name that would later be remembered across centuries. And in that silence, a heavy realization began to settle. This was not a normal stop. This was a turning point. Historical narrations in Tarikh al-Tabari describe that communication began between Imam Husayn radiyallahu anhu and the opposing forces. He was not seeking conflict. He sought clarity and freedom of movement. But political instructions from Kufa had changed. The situation was no longer about dialogue alone. It was about control. The caravan of Imam Husayn radiyallahu anhu was now being monitored closely, and with every passing hour, the space around them narrowed. What is often forgotten in historical analysis is the emotional reality of that moment. Imagine being in a desert, far from cities, surrounded by armed forces, and knowing that every direction is watched. The companions of Imam Husayn radiyallahu anhu were not just facing an army. They were facing uncertainty. Families were present, children were present, yet the atmosphere was calm, not because danger was absent, but because faith was present. On the 2nd of Muharram, something subtle changed. It was no longer a journey. It became a situation. From movement to stillness, from hope to uncertainty, from freedom to restriction. And yet no sword had been drawn. This is what makes Karbala unique in history. The tragedy did not begin with battle. It began with control. On the surface, the 2nd of Muharram appears like a simple stop in a desert. But in reality, it was the moment a path closed. And when paths close, human character opens. Patience reveals itself. Truth reveals itself. And destiny begins to unfold quietly. The caravan of Imam Husayn ibn Ali radiyallahu anhu stood there, not knowing that this forced stop was not the end of a journey. It was the beginning of a story that would echo across every generation. Because sometimes history does not begin with a battle, it begins with a stop. And Karbala was that stop.